Thank you all for coming out, especially this time before Christmas. It all gets a bit needlessly hectic, and we're all under pressure to be in the pub. So thank you all. So I've got an idea. In general, hands up those that are artists, those that are journalists or collectors. Right. Okay. I do have an idea how to position this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by telling you my life story up until I started working with X-ray, and then I'll continue my life story through my journey with X-ray, which is why you're all here, really. But I wanted to sort of start really with a little bit of context about my upbringing. So really, what I'm saying is the idea is the most important thing, and you'll notice that it starts with inside the brain of Nick Veasey, and when you X-ray that brain of that phrenology head, you'll find it's completely vacuous and empty. I wonder why. So yes, I was born in 1962 when everything was in black and white, and this is Oxford Street in 1962, so it gives you an idea what it was like then. Went into colour quite quickly. It's cool. Had some very important things happen to us in the early days of my career. Obviously, I had a lot to do with that at 4. That's one of the memories of my life. I was born in Packington Street in Islington, which is now quite a fancy area. There were 4 generations of my family living in a 4-storey house, and I lived on the top floor, and my uncle lived on the first floor. We all shared the facilities on the ground floor, the kitchen and the dining room, and my dad's sister lived in the basement. And my mum and dad weren't really happy with that situation, 15 people living in one house. And in 1967, we moved to a new town called Basildon in Essex. Utopia, it was called in 1967. It certainly isn't Utopia. This is the actual house I grew up in. Semi-detached house in Billericay in Essex. And my education really, I didn't do very well at school. I went to college for one day, left on lunchtime of the first day. I was not lazy, but not really engaged. I was okay at English, okay at maths, but the rest of it just did not interest me. I didn't go. So really my visual culture started really looking at youth culture and the subcultures that I grew up with. And that's where my eyes started seeing possibilities for pictures and the importance of what people look like. I loved my youth. I was free. None of the phones that the kids have today that I find in a way sort of can trap them. I know it makes them access the internet and they can get so much information so quickly, but I was very free when I was young. And that was one of my, looking back, was one of the greatest times of my life. So yeah, we had skinheads, we had punks. I was a little bit early for punk. I used to wear a bin liner to school and put a fake safety pin through my nose. I couldn't do it for real, I was too much of a wimp. And then when I started going out, I was probably about 18, 20, we used to go to these warehouse parties in North London. And the big scene then was sort of rockabilly. So it sort of came back in about 1980, 81. So the rockabilly was really cool. And then obviously the New Romantics, Covent Garden, the Blitz Club and all that. You can see how flamboyant these people are. And I was a suburban stiff, really, from Essex. I could never, ever bring myself to wear makeup or anything. But it was really interesting to see like all these different subcultures and how much liberation they had. They were like so different and so free, and they looked so cool. And I'm seeing these pictures in my head thinking, that's what I want to be, but I wasn't brave enough to do it. But all this is like information that's sort of building up in me. And then this came along and sort of gave me the freedom to do it all, really. It's a bit of a cliche, but the Summer of Love, 1988, Acid House and all that, and in particular this nightclub called The Shoom in Southwark was just amazing. Here you see the chaos of a rave club, and as a white kid from the suburbs going to these clubs and meeting other people and having the opportunity to let go, to be free, it made like an everlasting impression on me. So I didn't go to art college. I left school at 16, but this is my education. This is what's turned me into what I am. And I think these subcultures, so British, you don't get them to such extremes or done so well around the world. You see a lot of it in Japan with the young girls with these little characters on their bags and the way they dress and all that. They've got style, but I think the British have got the best style, the most style. So here I am, off my tits, in a nightclub, about 26, 27, raving, having fun. And what do I take out with me? I take my camera. So here I am, throwing my camera around, long exposure, in the club for 5 minutes, and that's what you get. It's the start of my journey with photography. So in my head, I'm a photographer, but I'm not, because I'm having to do other jobs to support myself at this stage of my life. I'm about 28. And then I met my wife, and before we were married, she was the graphic designer for a TV show called The Big Breakfast. Some of you may remember this. It was a light-hearted, irreverent breakfast show on Channel 4. And she was the graphic designer, and she had to come up with all the images. Very fast-paced job, quite a lot of pressure. It was a Monday night, and she's going, oh my God, I've got to have an X-ray done by Friday for Johnny Vaughan sitting on a truckload of Pepsi Cola cans. And they want to, on the Pepsi Cola can, had a ring pull. In those days, you used to take the ring pull off the Pepsi and throw it away. And a certain ring pull, just like the Willy Wonka film that's just come out, a certain ring pull had a magic letter on it. And if you got that particular can, you won £100,000. And the script that my wife Zoe had been given from her boss was, one of these cans is worth 100 grand. How can we cheat? How can we see which one is the magic can? Cut to X-ray of can. And it was her job to get an X-ray of the can. She asked all her other photographers and videographers, and none of them knew how to do it. And we were renting a house and our landlord was a guy called Chris, and he had a company called Spree NDT, Non-Destructive Testing, NDT. And he had an X-ray machine. So I said, Chris, can you X-ray a Coke can? And he said, yeah. So you're probably thinking, where is this Coke can? So I'm afraid, because it was the analogue days and the fast-moving days of TV, I gave my wife the X-ray and I never saw it again. But I have got the second X-ray I took, which is the shoes I was wearing of that day. So after X-raying that can, which took about an hour, I've got the X-ray machine for the day. I don't know how to use it. There's a girl there called Leslie, lovely lady actually. She's telling me how to do it. And she said, well, what else should we X-ray after the can, Nick? I said, well, can we do other stuff? And she said, yeah. So we just grabbed everything and I took my shoes off. And it's a really interesting shot because you can see, if you look carefully, the used shoes, you can see all the detritus that's stuck in the sole. There's a paper clip at the back here. I think they're quite fortunate, quite lucky really, to get quite a detailed x-ray first time. And I was just immediately hooked. I knew that. You see these movies like Blow Up and all that, we're in the dark room. This is just like the magic of photography. These images were coming out of nothing, out of the dark. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, this is another way to see the world. There's something in this. So I was hooked. And it wasn't very good. These are some of my early x-rays. And they're very, like, it's disappearing, the strap. It's really crusty, like low resi. Like if you look at there's no detail in the can and the pepper. You can't see any of the seeds in the pepper. And the colouring looks crass. That belt's really crusty and rubbish. That's not too good either. You can't see any of the tips on the end of the cash register or anything. But we start getting better, experimenting more with small natural forms. This is like maybe the second year I was doing it. So about this time, I had a bit more faith in myself. And I got on a plane to America with a bag full of x-rays, just like these films are on the wall, literally, in a bag. And I got on the plane, walked up and down Madison Avenue, and I walked into the reception of all the advertising agencies and the cool design magazines. And I said, hello, I'm an English guy, I'm here for 5 days. I've got these x-rays I'd like to show you. And a lot of people said, go away, you weirdo. But a few people said, oh, that's cool, man. What about this? What about that? You want to meet my buddy here? You want to meet my la la la? And they were so positive that I got this like a network going on. And then one of the last conversations I had was with a journalist from a magazine called ID, International Design. And he said, I'm going to write a feature on you, Nick. He said, I really like your work. And I said, oh, that's nice of you, thinking it would be like half a page at the back of the magazine. And it was 6 spreads, 12 pages, this article. And once that came out, it was just off. We were off. It was the phone. I had call waiting on my phone at home. I was running it from my bedroom. And I had that beep. Remember call waiting? Like beep, when you're talking to someone and someone's trying to get through. And every time I'm speaking to someone, there's beep, beep, someone else wanting to, and you're thinking, I'm doing it commercially. And I knew there was like a demand, but everybody was asking me, oh, can you x-ray people in motion? Can you x-ray big things? Can you do food? Can you do fish swimming underwater? Can you do Kate Moss? Can you do all this? And I was saying, no, you can't do that. I can only do it if it fits on the film, if it's the size of these things here. And no, you can't tell me how to do it. It's radiation, it's dangerous. So I was a bit scared of bringing people in with me because it is a strange way to work. It's very slow. This is late 90s and digital photography was just starting and people were getting impatient, and it would take me to take that x-ray of that flower, to scan it and retouch it. It would take me a week, and they're used to like 10 minutes. More flowers. Close crop gives it a bit more dynamic look. So organic things, all small things that I'd find on my travels. But you'll see these sort of x-rays. I'm not the only person doing these sort of x-rays. You'll see these elsewhere. In particular, there was a dentist from Massachusetts called Dr. Albert Richards. And he was a brilliant x-ray artist. And all he did was when he went walking in his lunch break, he would pick flowers from his garden and from the park and take them back onto tiny little x-ray films like this, like they put in your mouth. And he made these amazing pictures. And he was the one really that got me going, gave me a bit of advice. His daughter and I are still friends. But he couldn't do something like that. This was like the big jump forward for me. I was asked by a hospital in White Plains, which is a suburb north of New York, to x-ray a bus full of people to celebrate the opening of an orthopaedic unit of a hospital. There was a strap line on the bus that said, opening now, or opening soon, the orthopaedic unit of the White Plains Hospital. And the advertising agency art director said to me, what I want you to do, Nick, is I want you to x-ray a bus, and then we're going to wrap the image of the bus around the bus so it looks like a skeleton bus driving down the street. Okay, so I found out that there was a machine on the border of Mexico and America. It was the X-ray world is quite a small world of techno boffins, and one of these guys was involved in the development of this machine, and he told me about it. So I knew it was possible to X-ray a bus because they're looking for drugs, guns, immigrants, and they had this mobile facility that would go along the border of Mexico and America. So I knew it existed, but it was actually owned by a US Customs Authority, and the company that made it is called American Science and Engineering. So I'm now about 35, and I know the machine exists, but because it's been made, there's only one of them, and it's been made from US Customs, I had to get their approval to use it. So I was called up to the US Embassy in Hanover Square. It's not there anymore. It's now in Nine Elms. And I got through security and sitting down in reception, and then this lady comes down, takes me upstairs, big marble hallway. End of the marble hallway, there's this double doors of this office. Walk through the double doors, great big room, and there's a bloke sitting on a big sort of mahogany desk with a leather top, and behind him are the cross flags of the Stars and Stripes and the Union Jack across behind him. And he went, "Oh, Mr. Veasey, I understand you want to use the American Science and Engineering X-ray machine to X-ray a bus. So it's very interesting. I've just got a couple of questions for you." And he said to me, when you were 17, you were arrested for a fight outside a discotheque in Southend-on-Sea. You missed 3 payments on your mortgage in 1994. He knew everything about me, and so I was a little bit dodgy, but I'm not very dodgy. So I gave him honest answers to all the questions, and he rubber stamped the folder. And I literally went from the US Embassy to Heathrow, got on a plane, went out to Boston, and did it. And we X-rayed the bus empty, and the people inside it are the skeleton that you'll see. Same skeleton I use then, I still use now. But the image, I don't think the image of the bus is very good. The image, like you don't really see the second wheel, you don't see much of the engine, it's quite crusty. But it's a big thing, it's a 40-foot long bus. I'd made a big leap forward. So once I did one big thing, I knew other big things were possible. But this one was really sort of, this is by far and away the largest thing I've ever X-rayed. And it was applied life-size to a hangar. This is Logan Airport in Boston. And this is the way in and out of the, like at Heathrow, you go into under the tunnel. These are all the people arriving and leaving the airport. And in the middle, they've got this college football field. Great location. And that is on the air side. That fence is the security side. And United Airlines said, we want a picture of a plane in a hangar being serviced, not repaired, because they don't break planes, do they? It's just serviced. So there's a bloke on a lift, another one there, screwing something to the plane and all that. So when they asked me to X-ray a plane, I initially said no, but I was thinking about it for a couple of weeks, and the guy that asked me was a friend that I'd known for years, and I said, look, if you can get me access to Boeing and let me go and have a look, I'll go there, no expense, no cost to you, but I'll go and do a bit of research. Let me go up there and have a look and see if it's possible. So he got me a letter signed by a guy called Mackenzie, and this bloke Mackenzie at United Airlines is the guy who signs the purchase orders for the planes. That's a 777 jet that costs $350 million each, and he had an order in Boeing for 35 of them. So he's quite an important bloke to Boeing. And because Mr. Mackenzie introduced me, the people at Boeing said yes to everything. So I went up there and I said, can you send me bits of a plane to X-ray? And cut a long story short, they did. So there's lots of things missing in that plane, actually. In a real plane, there's all stuff in the computers under the fuselage. You've got lots more seats in it than when I X-rayed it. But that's the world's largest X-ray. That's 30 years old, or 25 years old now. And that took me about a year and 2 months. It's over 1,000 separate X-rays. But I didn't X-ray the whole plane. I only X-rayed one wing, and then you flip it, and you've got the other wing with the fuselage. Think of it like a bit of cheesecake. Just take one section of the cheesecake and then stop it, step and repeat it, and step and repeat it. It's a long time in post-production and a long time in X-ray. And then we did other advertising jobs. This was for Lucozade. Sort of they wanted the builders to drink Lucozade. This was a nice job. This was a sneaker that when you run from the road onto grass, it senses you're on a different surface and adjusts the support with this gadget in it. So they wanted me to X-ray the sneaker so you could see the gadget. But then they applied it to this shop in Harlem that sells, they sell more sneakers there than anywhere else in the world. Like there's queues outside this shop. And to give you an idea how big the picture is, there's a fire engine. So my picture's 2 fire engines long. And there's more commercial stuff, like, you know, blah, blah. This was interesting. These are the 6 core values of the Macallan whiskey, and one of them was to X-ray a house. So I had to X-ray a house, and obviously the object has to come into my X-ray studio. So I couldn't get the house into my X-ray studio, so I went up to Scotland to their headquarters and looked at how the building was made, and then I got stones, windows, staircases, chimney pots, and X-rayed all the bits of a house. But I did the bricklaying on the computer, one stone on top of the other. You know, if you really look at it in detail, there's no toilet, but it looks like a house. More advertising stuff, perfumes. Adobe, that was a nice job. Gave me free Photoshop for 10 years. And then there's a chain of estate agents. I don't know if they do it. Do they still do it? Foxtons? Do they still have minis? Every year they used to have a different design. And if you were looking at a flat, the estate agent would pick you up and drive you to the flat in a wrapped mini. And for 1 year they asked me to do it. And then I said to Mr. Foxton, I said, look, if you need me to do it, I need a mini that I can cut up and X-ray. And he went, what? I went, you've got to find me a car that I'm good, because I need to make it into small manageable sizes. So he said, you're charging me all that money anyway for the picture, how dare you, and all that sort of stuff. I said, well, I can't do it unless I have a mini that... So we found a mini that had 160,000 miles on it, and we ruined it to get that picture. These are Johnny Walker. So we're picking up in the colours, their corporate colours in the things. This was Louis Vuitton. A great company to work for. They do really have high standards of the way they make these bags. And then, sort of, this was really important to me. This is the story of an American kid called Trayvon Martin, who went from his house to get some sweets, and he never got home. He got shot. And the guy that shot him, Mr. Zimmerman, he got off, and his defence was that Trayvon Martin was wearing the uniform of the disaffected. That's what a hoodie is described at in the High Court in America, and that was actually the exhibit in the court case. And then something a bit more light-hearted, back to my punk rock days. I've done a TED talk if you want to find out more about it. That was quite nerve-wracking. So here we are. On the wall you'll see the Mini, and this is what we used to X-ray the Mini. So I bought it for £165, a bit of a rust bucket, which you can still see here in the actual picture. Here, this is all rust, corrosion. It's an authentic used car. It's not a shiny new thing. And everything you see on the floor, we X-ray. X-ray itself is a same size process. It's like a contact print. So the towel that wags the dog is the size of the film. Each size of film, that's the largest size of film that you see on the wall there. So just to X-ray that wheel on the floor, there are 4 films that we overlap So the wheel is 4 separate X-rays that are then processed individually, drum scanned, and then we bring them back to join the wheel. The bonnet, probably about 9. The whole side of the car, 30, 40. You see all the rust? Look at it all. Never seen that before in that picture. Yeah, and then everything on the floor. And then the good thing about cars is you can buy this thing called the Haynes manual, and they have the Haynes manual is how to fix cars, because I'm not the most organised of people. There were just lots of random X-rays lying around everywhere. It was like, what the hell is that? What's that? You know. So, it's the headlight, and that goes in the bonnet, and you put that next to the clutch, and blah blah blah. And they told me how to put it all back together. And that's 3 months' work for 4 people, 350 to 500 X-rays to get to what you've got on the wall. It shows you how we do it, because the other issue, apart from just the size of it, is the density. I'll run that again. It's a different strength X-ray for the seat, which is vinyl, than it is for the engine, which is metal, and the gearbox, which is cast iron. So if you X-ray a flower, it's just a tiny little bit of radiation. You X-ray something really heavy, like the gearbox of a car, then that's loads and loads of radiation. That's when it gets dangerous. That's when the radiation levels are really high. And then just to bring it to life, to make it look like it's a car that you can use, bizarrely, we put a dead body in it. So all my human pieces feature Frida, this Indian lady that I had access to, and I've X-rayed her from every conceivable position. I have a database of her. Sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it? I have her in all these. I have her in compromising situations, compromising positions, and then I can. So if somebody wants me playing tennis or digging the garden or whatever, I've got all these different positions, and she's very, very good condition. Once you've been in the ground for a few years, you deteriorate quite badly, and Frida, amazingly, is in great condition. And up until the 1970s, they used to teach student radiographers how to do X-rays with actual cadavers. Now they use a resin compound, because there are any radiographers here? If I'm speaking out of turn? So if you X-ray your head's thicker than your little finger, so you need more radiation to see inside your skull than your little finger. And all that sort of thing, and different angles to look for different issues. Nowadays they've got a chemical compound for it, but they used to use dead bodies. So we're going to get into now a bit more detail about how we do it. So this is quite hard for you to see, but basically I did the project with my local vintage motorcycle club, and if you see here, I'm putting the films down behind the motorcycle. With X-ray, if this is my X-ray machine, and I'm pointing it at you, it comes out in a cone like this, 40 degrees. So if I X-ray in the centre, the guy in the black bobble hat is going to be slightly distorted on the left. The lady in the black beret, lovely beret, she's going to be dead sharp. And then the lady on the right with the glasses, she's going to be thrown over to that side of the window. So instead of doing the motorcycle all in one go, I do the front wheel, or the back wheel, the engine, and the front wheel as separate sections with the X-ray machine lined up onto it. So about 9 films at the back, 9 films in the middle, 9 films at the front, and then I'll bring it up and finally do the handlebars. So it's like keeping that beam central is the challenging thing. So here you see all the components, parts of the motorbikes. And then we're looking at the X-ray films to make sure they're okay, they've come out. And then we scan them on this thing called a drum scanner. Gives you a digital file, and we stitch it all back together. So there's just one element of the motorcycle at life size, 100%. There's my X-ray studio. And there's the finished thing. Again, here is the heaviest part of it, the gearbox, which requires a lot more radiation than the petrol tank, which is thin steel, or the seat here, which is leather. So I'll use a lot less radiation for this section than I will for that section. This line here is how much petrol's in the tank. It's a bit soft, the petrol. So the hardest thing of the whole image that you're looking at is the clothes, because we have to x-ray the clothes separately to the skeleton, because this issue about them being different densities, different weights. When I x-ray for the bones, the clothes would actually would disappear, and if I x-ray for the clothes, the skeleton would be just a white solid. So I have to do both of those separate. And to get the clothes in the right position, we use balloons inside the clothes to match the position of the skeleton. Yeah, it's hard. And here's a really good example of what I'm telling you about the overlap of the film. This is a dress for my daughter Molly when she was about 8, 9. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4 films. And the bright areas where they overlap, I need a bit of overlap because I'm going to join them back together. And that's the same principle there for what you see for the whole side of the car, where we'll do 25 or so together. Okay, so here I am now. I've left behind the commercial side of things. I'm now beginning to make my sort of, not my mark, but I'm beginning to get interest in my work from galleries and museums. So I now decide what I'm x-raying rather than someone paying me to x-ray their products. So you think about, okay, what do you want to x-ray and why are you x-raying things? And, you know, these shoes, I don't know what they are, £500 for a pair of these Louboutin shoes. Again, a bit punky. But they look very glamorous and quite threatening when you see them in the flesh. But as an x-ray, you can see the way they're made with these nails, which is the way shoes have been made for 200-300 years. And it's quite Heath Robinson. It's quite revealing, really, that you've got probably a weak spot on the above the heel. You know, when a woman will lose her heel or get it caught and all that sort of stuff. But really nerdily, I'm very proud that I actually got the print to come out that's on the box. To get that to come out on the X-ray. It's quite challenging. So what I'm getting at is that by taking away the reflective nature of the object and looking at it as like a forensic examination, in some ways you remove the status. This is probably the most complex moving X-ray I've done. The first one, as you come in through the door, the cocktail barman is shaking the cocktail for you. He's serving a cocktail for you. This one is Michael Jackson. These are the still images, so they're all subtle difference of movement of Michael Jackson. And when I put it together in that process, he moonwalks. So. Really proud of that, but unfortunately, about a month after I finished it, all that thing about him having little boys over for sleepovers became a bit of an issue. So I'm not that proud of the fact that I did it, but I'm really proud of it technically. And bringing it up to date, we've done the same thing with the greatest stunt in my lifetime that an artist has ever pulled off. I love Banksy. I think the thing about Banksy, right, is that he's British. His work is very witty. He's political. He's not frightened. He's got balls. I don't think anyone anywhere else in the world could make Banksy apart from Britain. No one knows who he is, or is meant to know who he is. But I know he's British. Does everybody agree with me? He's British. Yeah, he is, right? Because of the work he makes, yeah? And to pull that stunt off, to have the guts to do it, and to actually be in that room, and apparently he made that thing shred with some sort of sensor and set it off, as the hammer was going down on it. It meant a lot to me, so I thought I'd record it. And there was a video that Sotheby's made of the back of the picture. You could see how it was put together. Again, quite Heath Robinson, these pumps and wires and stuff. So I've tried to recreate it as faithfully as possible, and they're here at the gallery, roughly life-size to Banksy's paintings. And I did a lenticular of it as well, so we can see it shredding. Something that we all will remember.
How it's worth more, the image.
Of course, yeah. That's the thing. When it's shredded, everyone thought, "Oh my God!" And obviously the person that bought it was probably worried, but now it's priceless. Yeah. So moving on from the Mini, I decided to. I'm quite a petrol head. I love cars, but I like old cars. I decided to do more with high-end classic cars, but obviously the problem with the Mini is I destroyed it. So I had to find a way to X-ray cars without destroying them, and this place in Germany, the Fraunhofer Institute, have got the best X-ray machine in the world by a long, long run. And the next picture. So we're moving that car into position. We're going to put it on this table. It's like a shipping container crane thing. And then you see this is the clever bit. This is like a CCD chip in your camera. That's 3 meters long. So I'm X-raying the rear section, then I'll X-ray the central section, then I'll X-ray the front section, and I'll stick it all together. And there is the before and after. The guy that lent me this car to X-ray is a German architect, Michael Roeder. And while we've got the car swinging up there in that crane, I said, "Oh, nice car, mate." And he went, "Oh, yeah, thank you." I said, "Well, what's it worth?" He said, "Oh, I'd never sell it. I said, "Oh, come on, what's it worth?" He went, No, they only made 9 of them. I'd never sell it. It's priceless." I said, "Yeah, but for insurance, what's it worth?" He said, 10, 12, 15 million euros. And I've got it flying around in the air. If I'd have known that, I don't think I'd have done it. And this is my second solo show in London, and this is the first one I did, which is great memory, 15, 16 years ago now. And here I was... It's a bit wobbly, sorry. But you'll see I was making light boxes.
Well, that's fine.
They're the actual sand dollars. That's the size of them, and we grew them up big. There's a back of a Vespa with the physical Vespa. So it's the sort of before and after, inside outside thing that I'm thinking about here. Making me a bit dizzy. Then here I am in Korea, I think. Is that Korea? Yeah. This was a really strange exhibition where I was actually sort of sponsored by a newspaper that put the whole thing on. And it was the really interesting show because they wanted to know a lot behind the scenes, so we recreated my studio really. This is the Massachusetts Museum of Contemporary Art. So here I am in a museum, and the bus was shown 40 foot long. And interestingly, the curator of the museum chose that bus because to her it said the story of Rosa Parks, which I was delighted with. I had no intention for it to actually tell that story, but to make... it's interesting how people interpret your work. And in America, with all the race issues, that Rosa Parks, I think she was 14 or 15, and she was told to sit in the black area of a bus, and she said, "No, I'm going to sit where I want." And she stood up to the driver, and she became a cause célèbre of the Martin Luther King and all that race movement. And that young lady had so much guts to do it. And I've just put people in there because skeletons are people, and the great thing about skeletons is you don't see colour, you don't see sex, you just see the human form. And that's what I like about my work, really. Is what I'm trying to get across with everything, is that essentially we're all the same. Of course we're attracted to people that we want to date and all that because of they're good looking or fun or whatever and all that, but inside essentially we're all the same. Then I did. I'm very fortunate to work with the V&A. This collaboration took about 5 years to get together. So I thought they'd bring the stuff to me, to my studio in Kent, to X-ray, but all these museum artefacts, of course, they won't even touch them without writing a risk assessment about thinking about touching them. So I had to find a way to bring them mountain to Mohammed. So I built a mobile X-ray facility in the back of a truck. And here it is. It's a bit dirtier now. Arriving at the Victoria and Albert Museum store, which used to be in Blythe House in North Kensington. And this is X-raying the Balenciaga dress that you'll see at the back of the room on the fabric. And I couldn't touch it because it's a museum artefact. So these are curators from the museum. This is Stephanie Wood. She's just curated the current Dior show at the V&A. So I'm telling them what to do, really. It's great fun, bossing them about. And we've got all tissue on the floor. I don't normally walk, so when I work, it's never so tidy. But these are the balloons we use to give the dress volume. I was describing it earlier about. So there's your boobs. This is amazing. This predates the V&A. This is a 1600s, 17th century Mantua dress, and it's made from real silver thread. The embroidery is real silver, handwork. It's just amazing, fantastic. There you see the X-ray sections that I've done it in, the overlapped films, and the detail of the embroidery. And there's the final thing. Beautiful. Show you the structure of it. And someone's sat there and sewn that. It's fantastic. And then this is a very important thing for the V&A. This is the most used artifact in the fashion section of the V&A. This is the Holly Golightly Dior suit. And a lot of fashion students, it's in their curriculum to study this suit. And the V&A, the V&A is the only museum in the world where you can make an appointment to go and look at any artifact in their collection. And the V&A will get it out for you. And a lot of students were asking for this Dior suit to come out, and it was getting worn out. So they said, "Oh, if you X-ray it, maybe you won't have to get it out so often." And they're in the show. This is another Balenciaga dress. This is that. It's like a cape, a two-layered cape. And there's the just getting ready for the show. One of the curators positioning the actual dress next to my X-ray of the dress, which was shown life-size next to it. This is where I got hold of Mr. Punch too, that's in our exhibition here, from the V&A. Yeah, this is, sorry, back to Korea. I haven't put these slides together very well. So as you entered the museum, you're sort of going into like an X-ray department. And they did these Rubik cubes and things. It's great. Lots of visitors. This is a show I did in Austria. And I was invited by the owner of the gallery, and he's something to do with the town council. And This is Graz in Austria, and the Austrian council asked me to X-ray things from the Austrian local community. Here, this is Russia, in a big museum show I did at Errata Museum just before the war. And this is my greatest event in my life so far. I was very fortunate to be asked to show at the world's largest photography museum. Photography is my passion, really. And this is Fotografiska in Stockholm. And I was there for 2 months with these beautifully lit shows, and there were people were paying to get in, and there was 120,000 visitors in 6 weeks that paid £12 to get in. Maybe I've got the wrong business model. Yeah, I had some very fancy visitors to show around. It was quite fun, really, because he was interested in the Land Rover, and Kate was interested in the iPhone and the shoes and things. And this is Princess Stephanie of Sweden, and I'm showing them around, and I've got one princess there and another princess there, and they're both talking to me, asking me questions at the same time. And I've never done this before or since, but I turned my back on the princess to answer one. And I said, I'm very sorry, Princess Stephanie, but as I'm British, I'm going to turn my back on you and speak to Kate Middleton. Yeah, that was great show. I'm done, really.